250 with Dean Wallace and Terry Wyhoon off the front row, Neville Lance, Jim Richards off row 2.
Yeah, row 3 sees Max Dumsey, Kim Jane, and row 4, Bob Middleton. Alongside of Bob is Ken James.
Paul Stocker's next on row 5. Alongside him is Gene Cook. Rocket Rodney Jane is on row 6 with Jimmy Ellis.
Row 7, we've got Greg Murphy, and alongside of Greg Ian Thomas. Behind those two is Terry Byers.
Andrew Calvert is on row 9 with John Maltzhead. Scott March and Darryl Coon round out the field. The controversy has ended. We're about to go racing. Jimmy Richards looking for a win in this 137 lapper. And Greg Murphy, the Bathurst 1000 winner, looking for a great debut.
Yeah, good to see Greg step over and come into a NASCAR for a night. He'll have a lot of fun here, I'm sure. And you're right, you know, Jim would put all that controversy behind him now, and this is another round, another race, a new night. He'll have forgotten about that. Concentrate on what's going to happen here tonight.
Well, we spoke of controversy with Jim Richards missing out on that second race win at the last round of the AC Delco Cups. Here at the Herald Sun 250, there's another guy who's come back from a bit of controversy. It's the guy that's leading at the moment, Dean Wallace, who packed up and went home. He's out in front of Neville Lance and Terry Wyhoon.
Well, Dean's certainly setting the pace. He's really on the money here in practice and in qualifying. He's really got that car hammering tonight.
We're on top of Jim Richards' Pyroil. No Fear Dangerous Sports Gear number 1 Pontiac. Dean Wallace is out in front in that Metal Corp car. And Neville Lance and Terry Wyhoon in second. There is our championship leader, Kim Jane, looking out the back. Way to go. And we'll just be taking care of the car, as he said earlier, and the tyres. That's the main thing. Squeeze as much out of the fuel as you can, and then worry about the tyres.
Yeah, well, Jim would like to stay in touch with the leader. I mean, he wants to get a little bit closer to Dean. He wouldn't be all that concerned about trying to lead the race from this point, I wouldn't imagine, but he certainly doesn't want to get out. There goes Bob Middleton again. Gee whiz, he's had some bad luck.
Oh, Middleton's gone around, and he has been tagged as well. Darryl Coon in the Simcoe car hits the brakes really hard, misses the Pennzoil car of Marshall Broad, but Ken James has copped it with the IC Iced Coffee car, and also wet paint. Well, he's going to need some wet paint on it. The caution is out. There's Ken James, the 01 car. Let's have a look at the Repco replay. Middleton just a bit loose, George.
Yeah, Bob's got himself in a little bit of drama there. He hasn't been able to save the car, and it's pretty difficult to do that. You know, once the car steps out like that, very, very difficult to pull it back into line again. And I think the unlucky one there was Ken James. Ken's actually thrown his car sideways a little bit, but just caught the rear of her on the way through. And, you know, first time back after a very hard hit for Ken James. So he's lucky that he only got a little bit of a tag there.
And the unfortunate part about it, Ken James's wet paint IC Iced Coffee car had our camera in the back of it. Let's have a look at the Repco replay. And here he goes. He's going to go down low here to try and miss Bob Middle. Bang. But the camera still worked amazingly. And the car's gone around. He's kept it off the concrete. Tell you, one of the lucky guys there as well, George, was Greg Murphy, making his debut here at the Goodyear Thunderdome. Was right behind Middleton where he spun. And Murphy stayed out of trouble, which is a great thing and hard to do for a first-timer on the bank oval.
Yeah, it is, and considering once the cars get sideways like that, we didn't quite see it, but a big blanket of smoke goes up, and very difficult to see where you're going. Here we have Dean Wallace, who's led them away again. He's going to show them a way around.
Lap 16 of 137 in the Herald Sun 250 here at the Goodyear Thunderdome. And there's Kim Jane. He's just stormed past Scott March, and he has the race face on. Dean Wallace is still leading on the Auto Pro scoreboard with Jimmy Richards in second and Terry Wyhoon in third. Let's go down to the pits. Big setup. He's chasing the number 2 car of Ian Thomas. There on screen, the Valvoline Killer Loop car. There's the 34 Clarion Monte Carlo of Greg Murphy, the Bathurst 1000 winner in 1996.
Kim Jane, a big hard run up underneath there. He's certainly got that car dialed in now. He's put brand new rubber, as we mentioned earlier, and makes a big difference, new tyres.
Interesting move to go in so early, lap 14. He's trying to get on the pace with Dean Wallace and Jim Richards. Let's look out the front of Max Dumsney's Valvoline Bright Eyes Killer Loop car. And no doubt those killer loops have given him the killer look. He's looking to get up the field. Just got Terry Wyhoon there looking the inside line with that Valvoline car.
Max certainly on the pace tonight. He's got his whatever problems he had with that car seem to have been sorted out. We saw him have a huge hit at the last round there, ran a little bit high. Who knows, mate? I've made some, I've pulled some pretty interesting moves that I thought were a really good idea at the time.
Well, Max is now up the 5th spot. Daryl Kuhn, the Simcoe car there, battling with Andrew Calvert. Calvert, the 71 Side Pro car, goes through from Tasmania. Great to have him here at the Goodyear Thunderdome for every meeting with that Side Pro team. There's Terry Wyhoon, and we've got 24 laps down of 137. Fast ones there with Terry Wyhoon and also Gene Cook. And speaking of fast forwards, there's the fastest one at the moment. It's the Metalcorp car, and there's this very slow one. Neville Lance in the Auto Pro car has whacked the wall. The King Coil car, well, he'll be looking for a new bed to go and lie down somewhere, George. No doubt about it.
Well, poor old Neville Lance has been fast all season. He just needs a bit of luck to run with him.
The Herald Sun 250 is under caution here at the Goodyear Thunderdome. Round 3 of the AC Delco. Errol McDonald, and with me is George Elliott, and we're on a restart of the Herald Sun 250, round number 3 of the AC Delco Cup.
Gerald, what a great race. The guys are really panning it out, aren't they? I mean, they're not holding back. I reckon they're running about 9.5 tenths at the moment, just looking after things. Although Dean Wallace is certainly pouring on the speed.
Over 100 laps still to run. We're on lap 33 of 137. As you said, Wanless has poured the pressure on. There's Ian Thomas in one of the Bright Eyes Valvoline cars. We're on board with Max Dumsney. He goes around the outside of Bob Middleton there in the number 5 car.
Yes, Bob looking for a better run here tonight than his last outing, I'm sure of that.
Boy, Dean Wallace is doing a great job. Les Small, crew chief in the pit area, is looking after him from the tactics angle. Wanless doing the job on the racetrack, and here comes Kim Jane under the inside of Ian Thomas. The number 2 Valvoline car goes back one. There's Kim Jane really working hard inside the car.
Yeah, Kim really focused here. He wants to get back in touch with the leaders. We mentioned earlier that Kim came in, put some new tyres on. Of course, that would have started him from the rear of the field, but with the new tyres, he'd be able to pick that up very quickly.
Richards now trying to pressure Wanless. There is a long way to go. We spoke with Jimmy earlier in the day. He said it's all about great experience in driving touring cars and also Formula Holdens.
Well, it is. It's tough, you know. The idea to be fast here is to run as deep into the corner as you possibly can. And he's right. Your brain is saying, let's get out of the gas. And you've just got to keep it buried. Looking at Terry Wyhoon up the inside of Rodney Jane. Rodney Jane moved into NASCARs, or the all AC Delco Cup cars, for the first time this season and doing a great job.
Yes, he is. He's also running with the help of John Sydney Racing, the Oscar Alloy Wheels. Number 3 Chevy, Monte Carlo, doing a fabulous job. There's Gene Cook starting to put a bit of smoke out the back of the Oscar car. Let's go back to last meeting, and Gene Cook unfortunately blew an engine, and now, yes, he has. He has copped a black flag from race control.
Well, it's not a good sign, you know, anytime you see oil coming out from under a car like that. A lot of times you like to think maybe there's a tyre rubbing, but not in this case. You can see Gene still blowing smoke, even on the straightaways. So a definite indication of oil coming out from under.
Last race of the year, and he is coming into the Primus pit lane with the 41 car, and it looks to be, although now the car appears to be okay, maybe it might be the end of the night. We're going to have a look and go down to the Primus pit lane. The crew comes over the wall. They are at the ready and drilled for this meeting as well.
Well, the worry here, Gerald, is that if it is oil coming out from that car, it's going somewhere. And the only place it can go really is down onto the racetrack, which creates a bit of a problem for these other drivers that are out there still at full race speed.
Wanless has just gone around Jimmy Ellis, and talking about going around, Jim Richards has gone around in that number 1 Pyroil car. The car has spun out big time on the infield. The roof flaps have gone up.
Rich O'Latney not, oh, but Kim Jane not quite so lucky. He's lost it on the same corner, and dare I say, oil had to go somewhere.
Well, there might have been oil on the track, no doubt. The Herald Sun 250 is under caution, and I don't think there's any doubt about it. Let's look at the Repco replay, and Wanless has just gone around the Jimmy Ellis Phil Monday panels car, and just in the background there we saw Jim Richards go. The roof flaps are up on the car. He's kept it off the wall. Let's look to the background.
Yeah, there's Kim.
Kimbo, and he is in all sorts of problems.
Not so lucky. Kim was actually running a little higher on the racetrack there, and he's clouded the wall.
Here's from the back of the Bob J. T-Mart car on the Repco replay. And look at this. Here we go. The car's all out of shape. Bang, hits the wall and spins around. I don't think he's going to be a happy camper. Well, I don't think
What do you think he's trying to say there?
he's not happy. Look at the oil on the lens of Jimmy Richards'
Yeah,
car.
there it is. That's the oil. That's what's caused all the damage. I'd say that's what's been coming out from underneath Gene Cook's Thunderbird.
And, well, we didn't hear a whole lot of going on out of Jimmy Richards' car, but a whole lot of damage there to the Bob Jane T-Mart 27 Goodyear Chef Monte Carlo of Kim Jane. The John Sydney team are working hard, and they've got those Repco tools pulling the tyres off, and the race is under caution, and everyone is diving into pit lane here for the Herald Sun 250.
Gerald, just seen that inside front tyre come off Kim Jane's car there. You can actually see the oil around the slip itself.
And the crew having all sorts of problems trying to move the bodywork out. They'll try and get the car back out onto the racetrack and gain some points, but aerodynamically the car is shot for the night, and it's now a case of let's finish the race and don't worry about positions.
Yeah, it depends on whether or not that car's had a hit on the right on the quarter of the front clip, and it tends to push the clip out of shape. If that's happened, I kind of doubt that he'll be able to get back onto the racetrack tonight.
Jim Richards in pit lane as well with the Pyroil car. The two inner tyres have blown on that car in the spin, and the crew working overtime with Dick Midgley Racing Team. Have no fear about that. The Wattle Spartan car is looking pristine. Thankfully, it didn't touch the wall. They're putting the fuel in, and hopefully they're going to run to the checkered flag. We're getting ready to go to a break on the 10 network. We'll be back after this. Richards is back in the pit. George Elliott, he couldn't change the outside tyre.
Well, no, when he came in on the first time, he was too close to that white line there. And on that white line, they can't change tyres. No question about having to change the tyres. They would have all been flat spotted. The inside ones, you can see those ones there, torn to shreds. But, any time a spin like that at almost 200 miles an hour, it takes the rubber right off the tyres.
Well, the Pyroil team have worked exceptionally hard. They're pushing Jimmy Richards out. We're going down to Primus pit lane and Nathan Prendergast.
But that's not why he spun. It definitely was oil on the racetrack. This is the result of a near 300 kilometre per hour spin. Both the tyres on the outside are destroyed. If you go round to our behind us here, this one in a lot worse shape.
Well, an interesting pit lane report in the Primus pits from Nathan Prendergast. We're on the restart for the Herald Sun 250, and Max Dumsney is in familiar territory on lap 72. George Elliott, he's back at the front of the field.
Well, with all that rice dust on the racetrack too, the only place to be is out there in front, because it's a nightmare when you're sitting back in the middle of the pack and all that dust, you just can't really see anything.
Well, especially there. I mean, that's so graphical look right there. 4 or 5 cars back at 150, 200 mile an hour. And you've got to have your wits about you when you're driving that fast.
Well, what you've got to have is you've really got to rely on the other drivers just keeping their foot down just as hard. You've got to have faith in the people that you're racing with.
And Dean Wallace has gone through to take the lead yet again in the Metal Corp Ford Thunderbird. On the Auto Pro scoreboard, he's out in front of Max Dumsney. But the Valvoline Killer Loop team coming back into the goods. Let's pick it up on lap 127 of 137 at the Goodyear Thunderdome, and the pressure is now on Kim Jane. He's holding his line, and the faster Dean Wallace wants to come through, and Jimmy Richards is now on his tail.
Yeah, Richo's about at the end of the race where he really wants to get up the front there. Dean Wallace about to go around the outside. Kim's not going to give it to him very easily, though. Holding his line, he's not really doing anything wrong there. He's racing, but, well, he'd be certainly wishing Kim was well out of the way.
And it has allowed Jim Richards to close right on the tail of Wanless in this AC Telco Cup Herald Sun 250 round 3 of the 97-98 Goodyear Australian Super Speedway Series. And now Jimmy Richards is starting to pressure for the lead, and the Pyroil car looking for the inside line.
You know, it appears that Dean seems to be holding Jim up a little bit there. I think that if Jim was in front, he'd probably be able to pull away. He's able to stay with Dean. Dean's certainly pushing that car right to the maximum. Almost lost it there, and Jim definitely looks faster through the turns.
That Metal Corp car is starting to get extremely loose in the rear end as he's coming out of the turns. You just saw it then, a little bit of a bubble around the Auto Pro turns 3 and 4, but definitely in Simcoe 1 and 2, this car is starting to get very loose, and Jim Richards has so much experience, and he'll just keep pressuring him until perhaps a mistake is made, or he can slip past and Wanless has to back off.
Well, he's certainly got a lot more experience, but he's also, I believe, in a little bit better shape car at the moment. You know, Dean, again, a little bit out of shape there. He's led this race from start to finish, don't forget. That's a tough call to ask from a race car. He's really pushing it into his limits, and Jim's been able to get in there. He's got 4 fresh tyres on. His car's looking in really good shape. Jim would be sitting about where he wants to be at the moment. I don't think he's too keen to take the lead too early, because that would leave Dean a few laps to be able to move back on him.
Well, that's the other thing, as you say, George. If Jimmy goes through now, it perhaps would allow Dean Wanless to pull back on the laps. Well, 1:31, we've only got 6 to go, but even a couple of laps to allow those tyres to maybe cool down a little bit again and try and bring some adhesion back into them.
Well, I would imagine that Dick Midgley, Jim's crew chief, is on the radio to him at the moment. He'd be giving him the countdown. Jim would know exactly how many laps there are to run. And, well, I know if I was in that position, I'd be hoping to take the lead with about maybe 2, maybe 3 laps to go, because it's a lot less chance than of Dean being able to get back up underneath and take the win away from him.
Well, it's all about cool heads, and Wanless and Richards both have those in extreme pressure situations. But Jim Richards, a multi-touring car champion, multi-winner at Bathurst at the big 1000, and of course an AC Delco Cup champion. He's won everything he's been in, and he is in the premier spot here. He's going where he wants it to go, and Wanless, he's driving like he's...
Yeah, he's like a man possessed, isn't he?
Well, he's controlling that car like his sprint car Australian champion brother Todd.
Well, that car was sideways. You know, Jim had a bit of a look out the outside there. It would take a brave man to go around the outside of that car, the way it's slipping and sliding out towards the wall. But he's got the pass on the inside, and we'll just see now whether Dean's able to get close enough to have one last thrust at him and try and make a slingshot move right at the end of it.
Got to say, Jimmy's car is also that Pyroll No Fear car. Have no fear about it. That car's starting to move a little bit in the turns as well.
Well, it is, because they're pushing it so hard. And now that Jim's in front, you know, he has to try and get everything he can out of that car, because he knows if he doesn't give it that absolute maximum, Dean Wanless isn't going to hold off. He's going to go for broke. He's going to pull out everything he's got and throw it at him on the last lap.
Well, Richards is pushing hard, and Wanless is doing his best to keep up. The 75 car is sideways through the turn. There is Terry Wyhoon, the BP car care car. He's in third. Another great result so far. Let's hope he can keep it together as well. But the last lap is on. The white flag has waved, and Jim Richards looks as though he's on the way to victory lane.
Well, Jim's very cool driver. He'd have his head, he'll keep his head together now, stay very, very focused. He's got 4 turns to go. He'll be concentrating on those 4 turns. He'll be racing the racetrack at this point.
Coming around the outside of Marshall Brewer in the Pennzoil car. Here comes the Pyroll car onto the main straight for the last time, and Jim Richards takes the checkered flag and the win with the Pyroll No Fear Waddle car. The crew are delighted, and no doubt Jimmy Richards is as well. Let's go down to Nathan Prendergast on Primus pit lane. Pyroll No Fear car. Dean Wanless in second, Terry Wyhoon in third, Max Dumsney in fourth.